Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss what is a malware, how it is harmful for the organization, and what is the impact of the malwares for organization. And also we are going to discuss the different types of malwares we are going to see and how this malware infection happens and so the different types of malware uh, uh, the difference between different malwares we are going to discuss. First, we need to understand what is a malware. So the malware term comes from it's a malicious, a software, malicious plus a software. The first are three letters of malicious and the last four letters of software forms the malware. It is a malicious software, what we call a malware. Malware is a piece of code or a script. The intention behind writing this code or developing this code to do some harmful activity to the computer. So what sort of harmful activity it is? Either stealing the data from the your server or corruption of data means entirely losing of your entire data will be deleted, and another thing is encryption of your data. So if the data is encrypted in your computer, the attacker encrypt your system data and he asks for you to pay the money to decrypt the data. So this system or server contains sensitive information. The attacker launches the malware in the system and encrypt the entire data, and then he asks you to pay the money to get back your data. So and he also performs a DDoS attack so that he can make your system or your server or your entire network becoming a slow. So that is an impact of a malware. And so we're going to see different types of malwares. The first, so before discussing about malwares, first we need to understand how this malware infection happens. So the infection can happens the infection can happens or the malware comes into your system through phishing. So phishing is one of the classical method or one of the most used method by the attacker to launch the malware into your computer. So, so one of the most popular method is phishing, and another method is the another he uses another method called as infected websites. So this is the so where the attacker uses the infected websites. So whenever the users connected to the infected websites so that the malware comes into the system. So that is the one of the method the malware infection comes, and another method is a malicious ads. So with the malicious ads, that advertisement that contains a malware which can infect a computer when the ad is clicked by the user. So and another method is drive-by or download. So the drive-by downloads is something whenever user visits a website. So with the driven by downloads where The malware automatically downloads when a user visits a particular website which is a compromised website. And another method through an external drives like a pen drives. So where whenever the user launches or whenever the user connects an external pen drives, which is causes the malware comes into if the pen drives or an external drives are having the malwares, so that pen drives or external drives connected to the computer, which infects the entire system, and that infection spread across the network, which is gonna compromise the entire network. So that is the another method of a malware infections. In the next session, so we're going to discuss different types of malwares. So the classification of malwares done based on their behavior and the intention behind the attacker. So for example, if you have a virus, so the virus again a set of instructions, and this particular virus has been attached to another software, and whenever the user activate that software, this virus also will be activated. So this virus comes into your system through whenever the user visits a malicious websites. So it is not a self replicated. It is every time the host file is executed, it will be replicated. And now this virus will be, for example, the virus is added, for example, it is added to an XY or Z a software. So whenever this XYZ file executed, the virus file also will be activated, and then it will be replicated to many of the places in the computer, and then it is doing a harmful activity to the computer, that is damaging your or deleting important files in your computer. So or so that is the main intention. It means so you losing your sensitive files because of this particular virus file. So the next one is a worm. So worm is the intention, the main intention behind the design of worm is to make the entire network is slowed down, or the entire server is gonna be uh, it's gonna be a very slow, so that you cannot functional your regular activities. So for example, the worm is also comes from visiting the unwanted websites, or of the torrents or kind of websites when you visit. So that is how it comes to your computer. When the worm enter into your computer, so immediately it is start replicating multiple copies, and these multiple copies will make your entire system unstable. So for example, you can see this one copy generates another multiple copies. So, and this particular file generates another multiple files. So what happens is executing of all these files uh, need a computer resources, right? So you need the computer need more resources, that is it occupied whatever the resource, like for example your mobile, sorry, your computer supports a 4 GB of memory, and it most of your computer resource is occupied by this particular worm file executions, POM file during the execution of this WORM file, so that you cannot work on other activities. For example, you're working on Excel, or you're working on a PowerPoint presentation, or you're working on a Word file, so that you don't have the enough resources to do your regular task, because the entire resources are occupied by executing these worm files, so that your system is become a very slow or unusable, so that the production gets impact. So not only that, if this system is connected to other systems in the network, so that these worm files will travel to other systems in a network. So like this, it is started traveling across the network. So in that case, in that case, you can see there is a huge traffic. So all the files are traveling here. All your worm files is traveling across the network, so that your entire network bandwidth is also occupied by worm files, so that, for example, you want to send some XYZ a file towards this, for example. So you have the two computers connected together, and so here this system is infected with the worm files, and now now so here you can see, so this system is infected with a worm, and now this worm files also occupy, this is the 2 Mbps of communication channel between your two computers. So this 2 Mbps of communication channel is occupied by the worm, because these are worm files traveling from these systems to this system, so that the entire worm occupied your network bandwidth, so that, for example, you have almost, this worm is occupied 1 Mbps of data as an example, 1 Mbps of network it is occupied as an example. So you have only 1 Mbps of data. So that is the case if you want to send a 10 Mbps of file. So in that case, so it takes 10 seconds to reach the 10 Mbps, but usually it takes 5 seconds, but now it is taking 10 seconds, because you have only 1 Mbps. So you can transfer 1 MB per second. So you have the 10 Mbps file. It takes 10 seconds to transfer the between your computer. So now usually it takes 5 seconds, but it increased to 10 seconds, because 1 Mbps of your entire bandwidth is occupied by worm. Imagine if almost 90% of your network bandwidth is occupied by the worm. So that is the case, you cannot send 1 Mbps of data. It takes a huge time to reach the destination computer. So that is how, also, if somebody is trying to send, or if somebody is accessing some resource from here, this is the server as an example, and you have another computer which is trying to access some file, and here you have all the worm infected between, because the entire network bandwidth is occupied by worm, so that it takes a huge time to get the data. So that is an impact the worm is going to create for your network, or for your service. One is the system become unstable, or system become very slow. At the same time, the network also become very slow or unresponsive, or unstable stage, because of worm. Next, so we're going to see what is a Trojan. So Trojan is a piece of Trojan. Again, it is also set of instruction, and this is designed to it's actually behave like a original software. For example, you have if, the VLC media player, or you have Microsoft MS Word. Okay, the Trojan also appears to be a MS Word files, MS Word, and so what happens is when the user accidentally downloads this sort of Trojan file, he thinks that he go to the some unwanted website and he downloads, he thinks that this is MS Word, but actually this is a malicious, this is a Trojan file, and it is downloaded into your system so that it creates a backdoor entry for an attacker. So for example, it comes into the computer or it comes to the server so that this is the in one XYZ a network, so that the Trojan comes into the server, so that what happens is it creates a backdoor, creates a backdoor entry for a attacker. So the attacker, he will have an access to this particular server so that he can do he can have the control of this entire server. So that is the main function of a Trojan file. Next, so we are going to discuss is ransomware. Ransomware is the intention. So we have seen many of the times we saw ransomware and we heard this a ransomware. So the intention behind the attacker is, so he comes to the server or he comes to the computer and then he will completely encrypt. So what he's going to do is he will encrypt the entire data. Encryption in the sense, so all important files, they or files or information or what we call as a sensitive information. This entire sensitive information will be encrypted. So what do you mean by the encrypted is, so it cannot be a readable format or you cannot see all your files. For example, if you have important Excel files related to the organization, so that it can be an encrypted, so that it cannot be a readable format. So the to get the readable format or to view this Excel back, so it has to be decrypted. So the decryption is possible through a key. So this key will be having by the attacker. So the attacker or the hacker will have this decryption key, so that with that decryption key you can get the readable format of your Excel file. That means you will get back your data through a decryption key, decryption a key. So now to get the decryption key, you have to pay the money or you have to pay the ransom to the attacker in the form of a cryptocurrency. So that is a Bitcoin. So you have to pay. Okay. So that is how the ransomware or malware, which comes into a system and do encryption and which look for important files and do the decryption, sorry, encryption. Once you want to get back your data, means make sure you have to pay the ransomware to the attacker, and then you'll get back your money. So, but when you look at the practically, so you cannot do that. I mean, you can have you have to, you cannot pay the money to the attacker because they don't have, we can't guarantee that with the decryption keys what they are going to provide, which may work or which may not work. So next, so we are going to discuss another a type of a malware. So adware is another type of a malware which we are going to discuss. So adware is again, the design of adware is to, it is actually displays an unwanted software which may not do a much harmful activity to your computer or to your server or to your network, but it creates some unnecessary. It makes your system unstable or system slowness. So also it shows unnecessary software advertisements on your computer, what we called as. So whenever you visit Facebook or something like that, so you always see different sort of an advertisements. So so like that, the adware is again which displays many sort of different many types of advertisements when you are walking. So when you're walking displays, you can see all these advertisements because of the adware. The adware which is not going to impact much impact on your computer or your network. And the next one is a spyware. Spyware is a software which is returned to do some collect. It's actually a spying of your computer. I mean, so for example, you are doing some activity here. This malware or the spyware comes into your system and just monitor what you are doing and collect the information without knowing you and then transferring to attacker. So here is an attacker. Here is an attacker. So the attacker intention is to, sorry. So here is an attacker. So where the spyware will be there in the computer and looking or monitoring your computer, monitoring what that's why we call it as a spy. So it is there in your system, it is performing a spy activities, collect the information from your computer and then secretly sending to the attacker, but it won't do any damage to the computer. Means directly it is not gonna harmful, but just transferring all the sensitive information to the attacker. So that is what the spyware will do. And so this is the user doesn't know all this what whether the spyware is there in the inside or not, but just silently collect the information and transferring to attacker. And next one is the root kit. So a rootkit is a piece of, this is also a software which is this gives you an administration level control to your computer. For example, it is there, and so the rootkit will help the attacker to give administrative privileges. So administration privileges will helpful to the attacker to do more damage. Means most of the data can be accessible with an administration privileges. This rootkit will helpful for an attacker to get the administrative privileges so that so attacker can have more privileges to do more so many activities which is harmful for the server or the entire network. And and then so we have another type of malware that is called a keylogger. So the keylogger, the function of keylogger is to collect the logs from, I mean collect the keystrokes. For example, I'm having a computer and I'm using a keyboard. Here, this keyboard having, so every time when you log in to one particular server or one particular, or when you want to log in, so you're using your keyboard to type the usernames and passwords. So here what happens is every stroke, I mean every stroke, whenever you're hitting the keyboard, so automatically, so what you are hitting, that for example you hit A, W, S, so you have these keyloggers which track or which logs all the, or which records all the keystrokes done by the user, and then it stores all this information and then sending to the attacker. So the attacker uses this particular information so that he can make guess or he can predict the username and password of the computer. So for example, when I'm trying to enter, so I use a P, I enter, I hit PASSWORD. This information will be recorded by this keylogger, and this information will be sending to the attacker so that the attacker knows what is the password of the computer. So this is how the keylogger, this is the functionality of a keylogger. So these are the primary malwares which is going to impact your computer or your server or your entire network. So we're going to see the same thing through our slides. So, so we already discussed a malware is a term comes from the malicious software, and the simple definition was there, and how what is an impact it is going to steal. We already discussed the stealing the information or deleting the information or slow down your system or encryption of your system data or DDoS in the sense slowing down your system. So and then the next how the malware comes, so through a phishing emails, through infected websites. So we already discussed all these things: malicious ads, drive-by downloads, or unsecure software downloads, social engineering, malicious insiders through malicious insiders like an employees who using pen drives, all these things. Or if unsecure software downloaded by the employees, so like a torrents kind of websites, which is the source of malware infections. So that's how the malware enter into your network and infect your organization. So and we have seen different types of malwares like virus, worm, Trojan, ransomware, spyware, adware, and bots, rootkits, keyloggers. So so all this have the different functionalities. The designing of these malwares or the intention of these malwares have a different intentions and the different functions they have. So we already discussed. So what is uh, a virus? A virus is a piece of code. So this is basically to steal the sensitive information from the computer or a victim machine. And the worm is slow down your network. And the Trojan is it acts like the backdoor, and it actually make it creates a backdoor entry for an attacker, so that the attacker can have execute some of the commands through this malware. And so we have a ransomware. So the ransomware is the main function is to encrypt the sensitive information, and then after an encryption, it asks you to pay the money to get back the data. So we also discussed the spyware, which collects the sensitive information and without doing any harmful activity to the computer and silently sending the data to an attacker. Adverse, which is also a as I said, it's not going to impact, but it creates unnecessary software advertisements, all these things. The next we have the next is a keylogger which stores or which monitor the user activity whenever the user hits the keyboard, track all the activities and then sending an information to the attacker. And the botnet is again is it's actually automated, means it's a small script which is there on a computer, and the attacker maintains many of the bots, what we call as a botnet. So using this botnet, the attacker launches a distributed denial of service attack. So that distributed denial of service attack intention is to make your entire system, entire network slow down, or targeting one particular server or network, slow down the entire, or uh, temporarily stopping the services provided by that particular server or a network. So that is the main function. And so far we have discussed these types and the malwares and the types. And the next session, so we are going to see the malware analysis, a lab setup, and suppose that we are going to see why we need to perform the malware analysis. And so we're going to execute some of the malware files in our upcoming sessions through different tools. we're going to execute a real-time malwares in our lab setup, in our lab section. So the next section is the malware lab setup. So if somebody is interested to wanted to perform the malware analysis, you can have the malware analysis lab setup, which includes the Flare VM installation, and you have Remnix operating system installations, and every instructions was provided there. I hope this video will helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you so much, guys.